Republic pays special attention to the development of startups and IT business. Astana Hub is a rising star in the international IT ecosystem. Today, more than 900 IT companies are operating, with revenue growing exponentially. Astana Hub has created a modern environment for innovation development, attracting talent from all over the world. But it's time to go to the next level, and we can do this only together. We are creating a new force in the global technology arena by connecting markets from the Bosphorus to the vast steppes with more than 400 million people. The goal is to improve the welfare of the globe. Central Eurasia will become a new region of economic prosperity through digitalization, science, and innovation. That is why we are here today at the Digital Bridge 2022 Forum with the idea of Central Eurasia as a new tech platform which connects Europe and Asia, where leading experts from large technology companies, startups, investors and entrepreneurs, technocrats and top managers have gathered to integrate and cooperate.
Дорогие гости, прошу располагаться. Так, мы начинаем. Ханымдар мен мырзалар, Digital Bridge 2022 форумына хош келдіңіздер. Дамы и господа, мы приветствуем вас на международном форуме Digital Bridge 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to the International Forum Digital Bridge 2022. В 2022 году в очередной раз наш мир переживает глобальные изменения, новые условия требуют новых технологий, и наш форум Digital Bridge строит новый цифровой мост между странами Европы и Азии. Данный форум уже успел состояться как профессионал. Digital Bridge проводится уже в 4-й раз. В этом году тема нашего форума Central Eurasia is a new tech platform. Данная тема посвящена развитию высоких технологий и бизнеса в этом регионе. Здесь на одной площадке объединились технопарки тюркских государств и стран Центральной Азии. Меня зовут Гаухар, и я буду ведущей данного зала. На протяжении 2 дней в 5 тематических залах лучшие отечественные и мировые эксперты в сфере цифровых технологий, инноваций и бизнеса поделятся с вами своими знаниями и опытом. Все 5 залов были символично названы в честь стран, которые входят в состав Организации тюркских государств. Это Казахстан, Узбекистан, Азербайджан, Турция и Кыргызстан. Позвольте также отметить, что генеральным спонсором нашего форума является Каспий KZ. Специально для удобства участников нашего форума мы разработали мобильное приложение Digital Bridge. Просим его скачать. В данном приложении на протяжении 2 дней действует викторина. Отвечайте на вопросы, выполняйте activities, зарабатывайте баллы и забирайте ценные призы. 15 человек, набравшие наибольшее количество баллов, получат ценные подарки. За первое место сертификат на годовое обучение на Python Skillbox на сумму 800 тысяч тенге. Второе место смарт-часы. С 3 по 6 места станция Алиса и с 7 по 15 место станция Маруся. Важный момент, что на протяжении всего дня на экране будут высвечиваться пасхалки, ключевые слова. Вы можете использовать их, чтобы выиграть викторину. Мы объявим итоги 29 сентября в 18:00. Победителями могут стать участники старше 18 лет, не являющиеся организаторами или технической группой. Также перед началом нашей панельной сессии я попрошу вас либо выключить телефоны, либо поставить их на беззвучный режим, чтобы не мешать нашим спикерам. Пожалуй, начнем. Первая наша панельная сессия называется «Стратегии развития IT-экспорта и человеческого капитала Казахстана. Основные тренды и перспективы IT-рынка». Я передаю слово нашему модератору Анатолию Моткину и напоминаю, что тайминг дискуссии 50 минут. Спасибо.
Good afternoon. My name is Anatoly Motkin. I'm president of Strategist, the leading independent institution developing the digital economy in Eurasia. And today the topic of our discussion is strategies for the development of IT experts and human capital in Kazakhstan. And the human capital, I think, is the most important component in any experts, even if it's industrial. And today, our distinguished guests represent all possible sectors or stakeholders who are responsible for developing the human capital in this country and region-wise. Product companies, engineering companies, and also international development agencies who are assisting to this development. So first, with your permission, I'll present our distinguished guests and speakers. John Chu, Vice President for Global Energy Portfolio in EPAM Systems. Evgeny Sherbinin, please. Evgeny Sherbinin, CEO of Prime Source. Georgi Alexidze, CEO of New Age. Alan Elkadi, Director Gaza Sky Geeks, Mercy Corps. Robert Parker, Trade Team Leader, Economic Development Office, USAID Central Asia. And Karim Boguspayev, General Manager of Glova in Central Asia. So let's start from presentations. Each one of our guests will present his case, and then we'll move to Q&A session. So please, John.
Hello? Whoa. Okay, yeah, let me just introduce EPAM briefly. Many of you guys might not know EPAM. So in short, in a phrase, we help world-leading companies make digital real. Expanding on that just a little bit about our history, we started 30 years ago, or roughly 30 years ago, and really it was in software engineering, helping sort of the world's leading software companies like SAP, subsequent to that, the Googles, the Microsofts of the world, build their software products. And that's really how we've kind of honed our engineering excellence DNA. This is all while most of our competitors, not to disparage, were building multi-billion-dollar businesses doing managed services, outsourcing. So very different business model and history than many of the companies that we compete with today. Today, EPAM is sort of branched out and expanded. We're still at the core, at the nucleus, software engineering excellence, but wrapped around that is layers of highly consultative capabilities around innovation, engineering. We have domain competencies across a wide range of verticals from healthcare, life sciences. I'm responsible for energy, gaming, you name it. So we've wrapped this core of capabilities that's branded as EPAM Continuum around our engineering core. And this is what allows us today to really help the world-leading companies, again, to solve their most complex problems, building the most complex solutions. So that's a little bit about EPAM. In terms of people, we're 61,600 plus. So we have 60,000 plus EPAMers around the globe in 45 plus countries. You can see on the slides kind of our footprint. We're fairly high growth, so that's probably another unique aspect for our industry is the growth rate. So we've grown at a clip of about 27% per year for the last 5 years. We've recently been added to the S&P 500, so that's a fairly well-known index of some of the largest publicly traded companies in the US. And you can see we're in a number of countries. I just handpicked a few just to share with you guys. And the point there is that where we've decided to ramp up and scale up in new locations, such as Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Colombia of late, Turkey, we've been able to do that at scale fairly quickly, and there's reasons for that. Okay, so one thing I wanted to share about EPAM, it's kind of one of the not-so-secret ingredients in our secret sauce, and it's sort of aligned with the theme of this talk and of this forum, It's really the high idea that we like to grow our talent instead of buying it. We see this as a much more sustainable model, and this is what has differentiated us in the marketplace. And by that, I've tried to kind of distill that for you guys into really two pieces. One is how we ingest sort of what I'll say is the best raw material. And so we've developed partnerships with over 160 universities around the globe. With those universities, we set up teaching labs. We're often part of the curriculum. And as part of this, it gives us sort of first line of sight into the best and brightest talent. It allows us to feed them work that is highly relevant to what they'll be doing and highly relevant to what's kind of on the market in demand. And this is actually how we've ingested the vast majority of our junior engineers. They practically all come from this channel. So of 50,000 plus people we've trained since 2010, we've hired about 18,000 through this channel. The second aspect of this that I think is very differentiating, and again, you see a lot of people doing training. We think we've been doing it for a very long time, so we've developed a tremendous amount of learning assets. We've become very good at keeping it evergreen, and we really put an emphasis on learning sciences. In fact, we have some learning scientists within our organization. And what I would probably say is the biggest sort of key of this is that we're out there solving real problems across real verticals for real companies. And this is really what makes this training material most relevant and up to date. Lastly, since we're here, I thought I'd talk a little bit about what we do in Kazakhstan. So we've actually been here since 2008. We've been in the country directly and through acquisition for, I can't do math, this is 15 years, roughly. We have about 100 plus active customers that we service here, some more than others. Obviously, Tengiz Chevroil is a big customer here locally, but also the export market. And this is something we look to expand. We've trained 3,500 people now within the country through these university programs that we are currently in the process of further expanding. And we've hired 300 of them. And so we see this as something that we're really going to scale up on. Let me know if I'm going over. This is my last slide. So last week we had a very good meeting in New York with the president and also with the chairman of Kazmunai Gas. So there's a lot of energy now within EPAM to see how we can really lean in and help to develop talent in the country. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. And the next presentation or opening remarks will be by Evgeny Sherbinin, please.
Hello. Nice to meet you here, and thank you for inviting. We are Prime Source. We start from the scratch 14 years ago, and now we are the largest independent player of IT market in Kazakhstan. We implement a project of digitalization of Kazakh companies here in Kazakhstan and in other 4 countries. We make a lot of projects from in other markets, and we prepare more than 3,500 specialists, experienced and strong specialists for Kazakh market. Now we have more than 500 specialists here in Kazakhstan. And in this year, we make the largest deal in the software market of Kazakhstan. We collect investments from American public company, FatBrain, and now we work for a lot of projects in whole the world, and we make projects of building ecosystem here in Kazakhstan for implementation, for development, cloud and AI, and providing international technologies, experience of our partners, investments of our partners to Kazakhstan to help growth of our company. So the 3 main points is to increase IT export in Kazakhstan because we have large opportunities here. It's to help our companies, Kazakh companies, to grow. And the third one is we want to build near cloud between UAE, Kazakhstan, and to provide for all our region ability to use the cloud technologies and AI technologies. That's all.
Thank you. So, Georgi, now it's over to you. Please, Georgi Alexidze, CEO of New Age, what would be your opening remarks?
Hello all. New Age is relatively new compared to EPAM and the other companies. We've been around like 8 years. We position ourselves as a multi-product and service delivery company with quite a diverse set of verticals, right? Ranging from gaming and ending with fintech. We also invest into internal startups, and this way we kind of extend the verticals that we operate in. And we recently decided to enter the Kazakhstan market to also diversify our portfolio.
Thank you, Georgi. And next is Alan. Alan, over to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, can you hear me? So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really honoured to be here. It's my first time in Kazakhstan and first time actually in Central Asia, so I'm really enjoying it. So my background is about 30 years in the tech sector, initially from the UK, where I had my own startup. After I sold that, I then worked in the States, Australia and Southeast Asia, generally helping the growth of tech companies, but also the help of the tech ecosystems. Director of a project called Gaza Sky Geeks. And Gaza Sky Geeks is a not-for-profit initiative based in Gaza and the wider Palestine. And just like the purpose of this conversation, this session is around the development of human capital. That's the purpose of Gaza Sky Geeks, but in a much more, let's call it, challenging location. And our purpose there is to try and create employment opportunities and improve the economy of Gaza and Palestine through tech training and the development of tech companies. So you might be aware that Gaza is a very challenging location. It's a small strip of land, about 20 miles by 5 miles. It's been under a blockade for various political reasons for about since 2006 or 7. So nothing can come in or out. So there's no movement of people, no movement of goods without the control of Israel because of the political problems. So the country relies on humanitarian aid. There's pretty much no industry there, and it's about 70% unemployed. So within this challenging location, there are some good things. First of all, there's the internet, and as Anatoly and I were speaking earlier, the internet can break down those geographical or political barriers. And the second thing that we have in Palestine is that the young people are highly educated. So most young people in Gaza have a university degree. And most young people in Gaza, as well as speaking Arabic, they speak good English. So our project is putting those two things together, good internet, young, passionate, educated population, and training them in tech skills. So we teach them coding, cloud computing, data analytics, graphic design, translations, things like this. Anything that they can do online and generate an income. We put about 2,500 people a year through our training programs. And we also teach them skills in freelancing so that they can find work online through platforms such as Upwork. Then we also try and connect them with companies overseas. So we connect them with companies overseas so then they can work as remote employees based in Gaza. rather than the brain drain of them relocating. We want them to be able to work from Gaza for overseas companies. That generates revenue and brings money into this poor economy. The other thing we do is we work with tech companies. So we have a startup accelerator, startup incubator, and we create tech startups. And we try and attract venture capital. Not very easy to attract venture capital into Gaza, though. And we also work with tech services companies. So we try and help them to be an offshore provider to companies overseas, doing tech services as an offshore company, as an outsourcing company. So that's really what Gaza Sky Geeks is about upskilling the people there and using the internet and tech to develop that human capital. So I've really been invited to speak here and on this panel and to come to this conference for two real reasons. One is to share my experience, because a lot of it is applicable to what you're doing here in Kazakhstan. And then the other reason is, quite openly, is I want to tell people about Palestine and to tell them that you have companies here. If you have a shortage and a need for tech talent, Palestine is a good source to supply that tech talent, and they can work online from Palestine and provide services to your companies, because we already do that now for companies all over the world. So thank you very much, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Alan. And Robert, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Parker. I work for USAID, which is, people probably have heard of it. We're an international development organization from the US government. And we do similar type work that Alan was just describing. And in fact, the first mission I served at was our USAID West Bank Gaza mission. So I was very excited to hear about this project. Anyway, so just to briefly introduce myself, I work at our regional mission for the entirety of Central Asia, and it's located down in Almaty. And we serve all 5 of the countries, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Kyrgyzstan. And we do projects that try to treat the region as a whole, and we also have missions in 3 of those 5 countries that work directly for the people of those countries. I just really wanted to just give a few quick examples of how we do projects that support the IT industry. We do events that bring people together from around the region. One of those is, for instance, we took people to Istanbul, and some of them were from IT companies, under the umbrella of the American Chamber of Commerce. And it allows people from all around the region, as well as Turkey and the Caucasus, to network and even do business deals. And the same was true just very recently. We took a number of companies, many of them from the Kyrgyz Republic, but also some from Kazakhstan and the other countries, on a trip to New York City and also to Silicon Valley, so that they could get exposure to the IT industry in the United States. And, you know, some folks did deals, but other people just were able to learn how businesses operate, IT businesses operate in the United States. And then finally, our projects do a lot of training. We teach people coding. We teach people soft skills, you know, how to present your resume, your CV, that type of thing. And also, we're very involved with trying to develop a region-wide startup ecosystem. And since many startups are IT startups, I think that works very hand in hand with the IT sector. So that's just a brief introduction. I'm glad to be on the panel here, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. And Karim. Now it's over to you, please.
Hi everyone, I represent Global. My name is Karim. I'll be very brief for the sake of time because I want to leave some time for the discussion. So a little bit about Global. So we're basically a tech company that provides to the people easy access to everything in the city. We're usually associated with the food delivery, but we're beyond that. Basically for us, the food industry is like books to Amazon, and we're actually planning to expand for more. And the way we contribute, we don't only export the IT technology, but we also share the knowledge of providing access for the digital products to the restaurants, because now they're having an opportunity to increase their incomes and actually have access for the solutions. We provide access to the couriers that also have access to additional earnings on top of that. And the third thing that we're now hardly working on is actually contributing to Kazakhstan's IT ecosystem with the partnership with Astana Hub. And we're planning to build an educational hub for Central Asia to actually help other businesses within IT segment to grow and become one of the startups in the region or even worldwide, because again, we have this knowledge, our team has a knowledge locally, and we want to share that. So this is briefly about our company, and the reason we're here is basically to share what we know. Thank you.
Thank you, Karim. And now we'll move to our Q&A session, and we'll start with you, John. Your company, EPAM, is present in 40 countries, over 40 countries, and it's in Kazakhstan since 2008. So what actually might encourage, or we heard from you about the meeting of President of EPAM, Arkady Dobkin, with President Tokayev, but actually, what is the action plan? What could encourage your company to scale up your activity here in the country?
What would encourage our company?
Yep. What are the incentives?
Certainly, the president going on, television and announcing that you're going to bring 10,000 people here is motivating. So that's one. I look at it like so if I put my EPAM business hat on, there's two sides to that equation. There's the supply and the demand, right? So I think on the supply side, it's about human capital. How do we accelerate building the capability in the country? So I certainly see that we're expanding that. Probably the only other thing I would add is where we've been successful in other locations is when we start expanding beyond hubs to second-tier, third-tier cities, because many people have a preference to work from wherever they might be, whether it's family, cost of living, quality of life. So expanding, maybe more thoughtfully kind of expanding into that kind of looking into remote areas to kind of bolster that hiring and training process would be one dimension I would recommend. Certainly figuring out ways to make it more appealing for people to come to Kazakhstan is another. I certainly have my own ideas about that. I think first and foremost is just knowing about it. And this is my first time here too, and it's a lovely country, and certainly I can see appeal for many people to want to live here and work from here if they only knew about it. The second part is just about increasing demand. So we've created centers all over the world, and when we do, it's usually, there's capability, and at the end of the day, customers are looking for capability, cost, stability, all those things, right? So I think we can certainly do what we usually do, which is, hey, we have these new regions, please broadcast it, please send people out there, and that's all good, and we're going to do that anyways. But what I think would be really important and uniquely interesting in Kazakhstan is to play to your strengths. And by that I mean, play to the existing verticals and customers who already have an affinity to the country and who already are aware of it and love it in their own way. And of course, I'm speaking of energy. Energy is a tremendous industry here in Kazakhstan. So I would like, to your question, to focus really like a laser on how we can actually build up a business in that particular vertical, whether it's through joint venture or some direct discussions with ministries or the companies out here or the international oil companies who we already have relationships with EPAM today within energy. In fact, has a, while it is our smallest formal vertical, we have a fairly unique role there in that we're building the underlying software for many of the leading companies. So I'd like to see how we can focus on building that. And ultimately, I think if we're going to get to 10,000, it's like the sooner you can get to scale, and again, I don't know what the number is to call scale, but some number, some critical mass, then that's when you start to see things really ramp up. So I think with scale comes a community, comes optionality, comes ability to do different things, and to really kind of amplify the fact that Kazakhstan is here.
If I may, just as a follow-up, brief
Yeah.
follow-up, I understand your approach to existing clients, and I understand that it's your first time here, but let's be more generic. Mm-hmm. What makes a new country, a new destination for EPAM, making it a trusted IT destination for your existing foreign customers? That's actually what we're talking about. It's not only about trading.
What makes it trusted? Okay, yeah, so put on the customer hat. What are you looking for? Well, again, I think it's many of the same things. You're looking for stability, so perhaps things like shutting down the internet across the country might be net negative things that create a negative perception. I think familiarity, just simple familiarity, people don't know. If it wasn't for oil and gas, I might personally not know about Kazakhstan. Like I might confuse it with Kyrgyzstan or Georgia and other places. So I think it's just maybe making more efforts to raise awareness. I'm not really sure what else I can say to the topic. I think again, there's also the cost capability equation, and this is why I speak of critical mass. You get customers who already have an affinity, you get them to adopt, and then you can advertise. I can advertise, hey, what are you talking about? We're delivering for Schlumberger the products that they sell from here. So why wouldn't you also, send your work here, right? So I think it's kind of chicken and egg.
Thank you. Thank you, John. And now it's the question to Evgeny. This year, the Prime Source became a part of global American company FatBrain AI. And what potential do your American partners see in Kazakhstan? And what will be the expert component in your overall joint activity here?
Yeah, so I work for building international company for building international business in the last 5 years. We have a lot of projects to make it. We go to America and be a part of plug-and-play acceleration programs. Then we try to make direct sales branches in other countries. Then we try to work with Central Asia market and sell our prepared products there because they're not so affluent as Kazakh banks, for example. It wasn't very successful, so it was a lot of barriers there and evolved. So, but we understand that to grow, we have to be international because in Kazakh market, it's a lot of reasons why you can grow more. So one part of projects makes by international companies like EPAM and, for example, TCO, they work just with foreign companies. Then we have a lot of companies, for example, banks, telco, they grow their in-source resources and so on. So the market is not very large, so we have to work with international market. And when we start to work, we see the reasons why Kazakh specialists and Kazakh companies can't work in, for example, in US. So we start to work with FatBrain as a customer. So they become our customer. So we start to work in some projects and see that our knowledge in cloud technologies, for example, is very poor. Our knowledge about cloud approach is very poor, because here just I think 1 to 3% of all digital services provides through cloud. Other is from in-source data centers and so on. So for example, when we start to create architecture of target system for FatBrain, it was very interesting that we try to make our own ETL processes, own storage, and so on and so on. And then when we start to discuss with them, they told, for example, for this we have Airbyte, for this we have Cloudflare, and so on and so on. So it was very interesting. So, and I think that the first reason is that we don't have enough experience and enough mentality to work with cloud technologies, with the fluent modern technologies. And it's not just we, it's the whole market. The second reason is that I think that the number of people that can provide just one company, it's too small. For example, we have about 500 people, but when somebody come and ask us to prepare some resources, we can provide just 50 people, for example, in one moment. But when you come to EPAM, you can have, I think, 1,000 people. And for large companies, it's not relevant to have small teams. So, I try to build like an ecosystem. We open ITEX Association, IT Expert Association, to build like ecosystem of IT companies who wants to be international and who wants to work in other markets. But it was very hard because they have to invest, and nobody wants to invest to this. So nobody, one company is not enough to be a global. We can build a community, and then we start to find another approach. And then we start to discuss with our American partner, and then now we are the part of them. And we see a lot of opportunities to growth. As you know, that IT export in Kazakhstan, it's about $50 million per year. It's very poor, yeah. And in, for example, Armenia, it's more than $300 million. So, but the population is very different. So, the first is that we understand that human capital here in Kazakhstan is enough to build something big, because we're smart, I think, and smart enough, and we can grow. So we have this opportunity. And the second is that technologies, cloud technologies and AI technologies are not developed here in Kazakhstan. So as I say, about from 1 to 3% of digital services provides from cloud. So we think that if we will build something valuable for customers here, it will be a big opportunity too. So it's two big goals, our goals.
Thank you. Thank you. And the next question will be to Georgi. Your company, New Age, is active in Poland, in Ukraine, in Cyprus, in Georgia. And now you're about to launch your operations here in Kazakhstan. So could you please tell us what actually is of interest for you in Kazakhstan? In what spheres are you intended to work? And what actually excites you about here? What are the advantages of Kazakhstan?
First of all, for us it makes a lot of sense geographically. So Kazakhstan is equally distant from our delivery centers in Central or Eastern Europe, and equally distant from our clients in Asia. But it's not a scale just for sake of scaling, right? We always try to derive value from the locations that we're present in. And we discovered that Kazakhstan has been doing really well in terms of developing fintech ecosystem and this is for us a place where we can drive inspiration. There are a lot of people, human capital, that have participated in projects, fintech, and we're planning to bring our parts of our fintech products or projects into Kazakhstan, and that is the real value that we see in Kazakhstan. And I must agree with John that not everyone knows about Kazakhstan, not everyone knows about the human capital of Kazakhstan, and even less people know that Kazakhstan has been doing really well in developing the fintech ecosystem, and that has to be worked on.
Okay, thank you, Georgi. And to you, Alan, we know that you implement successfully your training programs in Palestine. And do you think it's a template that could be replicated in other countries? And what's your assumption about how do you think you could implement your experience and your programs here in Kazakhstan? Please.
Yeah, I think that although there's some really, really big differences in the situation between where I am and Kazakhstan, many of the things that we're doing in Palestine, I think the lessons we've learned are really applicable to here. So I'll touch on the key ones, I think, is that we're the same goal. We're trying to develop the IT sector, the human capital of a country. So the first thing I'd recommend is the programs that you run, focus them on individuals. So that's the individuals that you're trying to teach. And I mentioned in Gaza we teach about 2,500 people a year. That's with individuals. But also develop programs for companies. Because in the end, the individuals are very useful and they're going to be either generating income as individuals on their own, working as remote employees or as freelancers. But hopefully they're going to feed into companies. And companies is what you really wanted to develop in Kazakhstan, as we want to try and develop in Palestine. So everything I say, think of it as applied to individuals and to companies. Then the second thing to think about is, what are the actual types of programs and education trainings that are going to be really relevant for your market and your situation? So if you look at what the market is crying out for, there's worldwide demand for tech talent. We hear that from my colleagues here, and we know that in our own experience. But what the market wants is highly experienced people. So they're looking for people at senior level, at the lowest price possible, of course, but they're looking for senior people. And the challenge with any type of training is that the people who come out of training programs are juniors. So how do you fill the gap from here to here? And that's really the challenge you've got. So when we do our training, we recognize that there's a gap, and we try and find ways to fill that. So first of all is we do things like internships, and I think that's really useful. Placing people who've gone through training into companies so they can gain experience. Second thing is recognizing that it's a worldwide market and there is an abundance of supply of junior people from Africa, from South America, from the developing countries. So another area I strongly recommend is focus on certain niches. Don't create generic tech people. Create people with specialist skills in certain niches. So we focus on perhaps on certain areas of cloud computing. We focus on perhaps Salesforce, or we focus on data analytics. So any specialization increases the value and the chance of the human capital you're creating. That's relevant, though, also for the companies. Generic companies, difficult to compete. You're only competing on price. If you specialize, you're not competing on price. And then perhaps just to finish on a final area is recognize that it's more than just tech capabilities and tech skills. Of course they're valuable, all of these engineering skills you need. But there's another side to it as well, is how do you sell? One of the conversations we heard this morning in the President's preliminary speech was one of the speakers talked about, we've got great engineers here in Kazakhstan, but we're not very good at sales. So that's what we find also in Palestine. Not only teach people engineering skills, but how are they going to find those projects overseas? How are those companies going to network and connect to companies overseas to win projects? So we focus also on sales. And I think they're very applicable here.
Thank you. And the next question to you, Robert. USAID supports digital development in Central Asia in different countries who work together also in different programs. Future Growth Initiative, supported by USAID, works a lot on several components, including jobs creation, FDI attraction, and also working with the startups. But from your perspective, how the digital development in Central Asia contributes to the synergy, to the regional integration of Central Asia?
Yeah, thanks. Just two quick examples on that one. First of all, the regional question comes to me because we do tend to look at the 5 countries of Central Asia as a region. I know this is a Kazakhstan event, but I would definitely advocate for Kazakhstan to integrate with the region, perhaps as a leader. And one of the great examples that we're hearing here is that this industry allows for geographic location. You know, you don't all have to be in the big hub city. Well, that can work in different countries as well, because the Central Asian countries share the background and the culture. And so that, for the companies anyway, that works because it just deepens the talent pool that you can pull from. But switching it around, how can the development of the IT industry help regional integration? I think then what we like to see is that the private sector perhaps runs into some problems doing business as a regional, as a multi-country company, and can advocate to the governments of the countries to harmonize their rules and do the reforms that are necessary so that you can actually run a regional company instead of just one that's located in one of the 5 countries. The other thing that we do that crosses over into this question is we have a grants program that we give a small amount of money and then also technical assistance to companies that want to do a big project within their company to modernize. And a lot of those modernization efforts involve digitization of their company, where perhaps they had processes that were paper-based before. But then once they get digitized, they often want to start selling online, and you know, once you're starting to sell online, it's not such a big step to expand your company into a neighboring country. And so you can become a regional brand instead of just in one country. And I think again, the experiences that companies have there will lead them to push for regional harmonization of regulations and laws. And I think for the region as a whole, that will be good, because not only does Kazakhstan need to work on being known throughout the world, but the region needs to be known because it shares so many different aspects that are similar. So, I mean, getting people to know that Central Asia is a place where there's, you know, good human capital. It's got some really nice cities to live in, and I think tourism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can really develop a regional brand as well as getting the companies out there. So, thanks a lot.
Thank you. And to you, Karim. A company, Glava is among those companies who made our life better amidst the pandemic, at least. And then we felt how actually we could visit restaurants without leaving our own house. But you are a technological product company. And if I would address a question that is actually in line with what we're discussing here today, how do you think, what might be or should be the contribution of companies like yours, like prime product companies, technological companies, to the overall development of IT industry in Kazakhstan?
I see it like breaking down into 2 things. I think the most important one is the technology platform itself that drives the market forward. So I'll just share one example that we're really proud of. So basically, since we're entering the market as a tech company, we're a delivery company, it requires additional different market solutions that should be in place. So one of them is being the integration between our platform and the restaurants or the grocery shops, right? And we usually import that solution from abroad, but in Kazakhstan and at least for Central Asia, we're trying to look for the local solutions, and gladly we have found a partner that is doing it like at least on the same level as it's done in Europe or United States. And I think what we're going to do and our contribution should be basically scaling this kind of businesses and taking them from Kazakhstan to Spain, to Italy, or to other markets, which is we intend to do. The second thing is the knowledge and education. I think with the right approach in terms of the partnership with the couriers, with the restaurants, we're able to change the mindset to show that there is a digital products that can be scaled out of the country. And this is also another dimension we're working in. So we'll be providing white label solutions for the local restaurants, and basically it will be up to them to have their digital solution and to scale it wherever they want. It can be Kyrgyzstan, it can be Tajikistan, like Robert has mentioned about the Central Asia, and I think us being a tech company, we don't only bring the product, but we need to help foster other digital products to scale up into other countries. And this is our vision, and this is what we intend to do here, at least for the upcoming years.
Thank you, and we have 10 minutes left, and I propose to address one question to all the speakers, and then maybe to pass the mic to the floor and to let you ask some questions. So, the Digital Bridge Forum is a unique platform where we as an industry and the international financial institutions, the global development agencies, could address policy recommendations to the government. Last year, President Tokayev has mentioned the scaling up the IT experts from Kazakhstan as a top priority for the country. And I will ask you, what do you think would be your recommendations? What might make your work easier in the country to scale up the experts from the country? What kind of assistance or support do we need from the government as an industry, or in your Robert case, as a development agency that will make not only priority as a statement, but priority as a real action from the governmental side? So please now volunteer yourself, who would be first to answer. Maybe you. Yep.
Yeah.
Evgeny.
So I think that my recommendation would be to prepare a plan. Right now we have some actions that could help to growth, but the plan is the schedule and responsible. So we don't have this plan. So what do I mean? For growth of export, for example, we need for example, 10,000 people, we need sales channels, we need companies who will be entrepreneurs who will be responsible for build companies, and so on and so on. So first year it could be 500 people, 2 companies, and so on and so on. The second year 1,000 or more. So I think that we should have not recommendations and not support. We should have exactly direct plan with responsible and with the schedule.
But still, you expect that the government will, who should be the executor of this plan? The private sector or the government?
I tried to make it in ITEX association. So I tried to build, I think that we should have 5 vectors: infrastructure, entrepreneurs, people development and education, digitalization in Kazakhstan, and sales channels in whole the world. So I think that in each direction should be responsible in each time period. And I think that government can organize and moderate this work, but the work should be done by the entrepreneurs.
Thank you. And John, over to you. I'll ask from perspective of EPAM, as one of the leading engineering companies, what kind of assistance do you expect from governments, not necessarily Kazakhstan, but new countries where you are interested to scale up your activity there?
Yeah. Well, I think what Eugene just said about having a plan certainly resonates with me. I come from a project management background, so I latch onto that. Also, what Robert was talking about, organizing regionally kind of hit some nerves for me as well. I think there's something to be said there as well to kind of maybe just translate to your question. Maybe I'm just talking about what's on my mind. I do think this will help, right? I think if you start labeling this as Central Asia and playing to the strengths of all the respective components of that, that also really helps a lot. Frankly, I think, sorry for being lengthy, I actually like a lot of what I'm seeing. I mean, we've been working with the ministries now for a month plus, a couple months. Frankly, this is a very dynamic group of young leaders, and certainly from where Robert and I are from, you know, you'll find it hard to move big agendas forward because there's so much bureaucracy, and it's really refreshing to see, like, it's an exciting place to be. In terms of help, again, the familiarity thing I feel strongly about. I think, again, regionally orienting might be helpful, but helping to build more familiarity with Kazakhstan, not just with our customers, but if you're talking about ingesting more talent. One thing I learned in the last 6 months where we've been relocating a lot of people and seeing where they land is I learned that it's not our developers and engineers deciding where they relocate. It's their spouses. And so it's happening because where they end up is because these are familiar places. They've gone to those places, they've vacationed there, they feel comfortable. So I do think maybe some help in working with us to message that, maybe plan trips, you know, making people know what's here is or whatever country, right? I mean, I'm talking about Kazakhstan. English, I think, like it or not, many of our best customers do business in English. So I think if folks, and I see a lot of great English here, but certainly there can always be more. And then one other thing is, and I don't know if this is a policy question, but when you look at places like India, Philippines, there's a lot of call centers. You see a lot of people working kind of one shift over. And so I don't know if there's any policies here that preclude shifting schedules, but that, you know, that is another thing that I think might be interesting.
Thank you, John. And Robert, do you have something from your perspective as a representative of the biggest independent global development agency? What would you expect? What kind of assistance?
So I know the question is about spurring IT work in the short term, but I can't get away from being in the development world, and if I were to make a recommendation, it would be to do the education reforms that are necessary to provide I hate talking about people as materials, but to provide the raw material to these training programs, like for instance, I think John, you mentioned, it doesn't necessarily have to have a heavy IT curriculum because they're willing to train their company's way of doing things. But definitely to not neglect education. In the future, human capital is what every country has to export. And so, and it not just in the two big cities, everyone in the country needs to get a good education, and that way there'll be plenty of people to fill these jobs, and let the private sector take it from there. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. And in the mode of fire chat, if you have some questions here on the floor, I'd be happy to pass the microphone. So I think that I'll try to summarize this in a couple of words. I think that all of us agree that the key to the success of scaling up the IT industry or the software products from the country are first the human capital, and also I would agree with Robert that the regional synergy, regional coordination would make the cake bigger. And I think that's something that there are a lot of things, especially in digital sphere, where you could not only compete on, but also to work together. And I agree absolutely about the equal opportunities, the uniqueness of digital economy and the IT industry, that it provides equal opportunities for people with different background, especially your Alan background and your activity demonstrated even in a Gaza Strip. people could succeed, which is one of the poorest places over the world. So thank you for that. Thank you for your contribution, and hopefully we'll meet together in 1 year to see what progress have we made. Thank you.
Спасибо нашим спикерам. По-моему, это была очень интересная панельная сессия. У нас даже не хватило посадочных мест. Давайте проводим еще раз аплодисментами. У нас 10-минутный перерыв. Следующая панельная сессия «Как сохранить венчурный портфель во время турбулентности на мировых финансовых рынках».
Мобильное суперприложение Каспий KZ – самое популярное приложение в Казахстане, которое стало неотъемлемой частью современной жизни казахстанцев. Все наши сервисы созданы с одной целью – улучшать жизнь любимым клиентам. С помощью суперприложения Каспий KZ уже более 12 миллионов казахстанцев делают платежи и переводы, управляют личными финансами, покупают авиа и ЖД-билеты, пользуются самыми популярными государственными услугами и совершают выгодные покупки онлайн с бесплатной доставкой по всей стране. Мобильное приложение для бизнеса Каспий Pay от Каспий KZ помогает казахстанским компаниям расти и развиваться. Большинство партнеров Каспий Pay – это компании малого и среднего бизнеса. С помощью Каспий Pay предприниматели по всей стране, принимая оплату, увеличивают продажи и создают рабочие места. Сегодня уже более 305. Мобильная супер...
Excuse me.
Biz қор нарығынан бастап қазір әлемдік деңгейдегі инвестициялық компанияға айналдық. Бірақ бұл бізге жеткіліксіз. Бүгін біз онлайн автосақтандыруда көшбасшымыз. Және өмірлі сақтандырудың жаңа стандарттарын қойдық. Biz alğaçqı Алғашқы болып ТМД-да цифрлық ипотеканы іске қостық. Және смартфонды бөліп төлеу арқылы сатып алудың ең жылдам тәсілін енгіздік. Біз бизнеске арналған онлайн төлемдерді ұсынамыз. Енді жаңарудың уақыты келді. Біз әлі де бұрынғыдай сенімдеміз. Бірақ әлде қайда икемдіміз. Серпінді және инновациялы. Бір бренд, мыңдаған мүмкіндіктер. Фридомның ортақ экожүйесіне қош келдіңіздер.
Дорогие гости, мы начинаем. Сейчас закройте, пожалуйста, двери. Dear guests, I welcome everyone to the panel session, How to Maintain a Venture Portfolio During Turbulence in the Global Financial Markets. The best local and foreign experts in the field of IT and business are invited as speakers. I give the floor to the moderator of the meeting, Mike Fisher, and remind you that the time limit for the discussion is 50 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming. My name is Mike Fisher. I am a professor of interactive media at the University of Southern California. Prior to that, I was an executive at Microsoft, Amazon, and I was also the publisher of Fortnite at Epic Games. We have an amazing panel of experts to talk about the issue of risk and uncertainty in the VC investment era. In 2008, we had the Lehman shock. It was an incredible financial disruption. And then we had over a decade of unprecedented prosperity and peace. Incredible growth, driven in large part by mobile internet and the growth of smartphone adoption. And everything was going great. It seemed like this prosperity was going to go on forever. Then suddenly, just in the last couple of years, we face global pandemic, international conflict, an energy crisis, rapid inflation, just to name a few issues. And all of a sudden, we're facing incredible risk and uncertainty. So the question is, as an investor, or in some of your cases as an entrepreneur, what do we do about this situation? So this is the situation we'll discuss. I would like to maybe ask each of the panel members if you can introduce yourself briefly. You can do a far better job than I can. James, we'll start with you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Tan, Managing Partner at Quest Ventures. We are a venture capital firm based out of Singapore, investing in Southeast Asia and also Central Asia. We are very proud that in the last 2 to 3 years, we have invested in close to 33 companies in Kazakhstan and Central Asia region. Close to 20% of all the unicorns that you see in Southeast Asia were seeded by us.
Hi, I'm Michael Moe. I'm founder of GSV, which stands for Global Silicon Valley. We're based in Silicon Valley, and really the thesis of our firm is that the mindset of entrepreneurship and innovation, which has made Silicon Valley such a remarkable place, is spreading throughout the world. And we're looking to connect Silicon Valley with this emerging global Silicon Valley. We've invested in game-changing businesses such as Facebook and Twitter and Snap and Spotify and Lyft, Coursera. But probably our biggest claim to fame is in the education technology space, where we've invested in 17 of the 51 unicorns that exist, including Coursera, which has a big presence here in Kazakhstan. And just in addition to those investing activities, we have a conference in partnership with Arizona State University called the ASU GSV Summit, where 5,000 education leaders come from around the world in San Diego every year. And we also host virtual startup boot camps where we've had 10,000 participants come to that boot camp. And by the way, that's free. So anyway, it's a pleasure to be here.
Hello, my name is Peter Ritz, and I'm a CEO and co-founder of a company called FatBrain AI, where we power the businesses of tomorrow. Some people call small and mid-sized businesses, we call them businesses of tomorrow, that power the majority of the global economy. There's over 500 million businesses that we call are in the middle of the pyramid, that are not so big as they're like governments, and they're not so many as they're just consumers, but we feel they're the key to driving value and growth and the future as we kind of driving technology to advance. We purchased the largest independent IT company in Kazakhstan. So we've hello? Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. We don't need the mic. Oh, there we go. We're fine without the mic. I'll start yelling now. But we actually invested in the largest independent IT company here in Kazakhstan called PrimeSource. So wherever you see PrimeSource and FatBrain have joined forces. And we think this region is very special. As President Tokayev said earlier today in a session, we're in a crossroads between Asia and Europe, So all the traffic, all the data traffic, all the knowledge traffic that kind of moves across the continent is a prime opportunity to increase both value for the region and really drive the value of kind of digital economy for everyone. So we're very excited to drive that as a growth factor and catalyze small business and beyond for everybody.
Good afternoon. My name is Arslan Kujar. I'm CEO of Venture Eurasia, which is a part of the ecosystem player of Astana International Financial Center. So we are trying to build VC ecosystem, be part of the VC ecosystem, drive investment through our VRE by attracting more angel investors to the platform, leveraging on the regulation of the AFC and like investment vehicles that is available. So our goal is to attract and engage as much angel investors as possible to be part of the startup ecosystem. Thanks.
My name is Gleb Davidjuk. I'm founding partner for iTech Capital, which is a family of few funds doing primarily private equity and venture capital investments. Here you go. So my name is Gleb. Easy. I'm a founder and a managing partner for iTech Capital, which is a family of funds investing in primarily private equity and venture capital across the globe. So we trying to follow a Russian-speaking community, Russian founders doing business globally, and managing slightly less than $500 million in assets spread across different companies in different continents as well. So among the companies you probably know, we are the founding partner and also largest shareholder for the Avia Sales. I don't know if you know the company. So, and that's, or if you trade in shares, we actually one of the early investors and large investors in a company called TradingView. If you do the share trading, you probably use our services as well. So that's where we are. And we are welcome to invest here in Kazakhstan as well.
Thank you all. Now, for this first question, Gleb, I'm going to start with you and ask people to answer it coming this way. But as VCs, of course, you do much more than just invest and walk away. A big part of having a VC as a partner is you're giving advice to your portfolio companies, you're helping them to become more successful. And of course, every portfolio company is different, so you can't give the same advice to everyone. But in general, how are you telling your portfolio companies to think about this time of uncertainty? Is it full speed ahead? Or are you asking them to think about things a little bit differently in an era where maybe future capital may not come so easily, or there may be more economic challenges along the way? So again, what advice are you giving your portfolio companies in this tough economic environment?
It's a hard question to answer because there is no simple answer to that, and every portfolio company is a different one. And well, since we do primarily later stage investments, so we have a slightly less number of portfolio companies than a typical VC fund. So I'm managing 16 companies. When you manage 16 companies, that's way easier than to manage 200 of them. And when you have 16 companies, it's easier for you to dive in, to basically do the operational support to the portfolio companies. And since in the recent time, many things are changing so fast, you basically react every time differently on different things. So, for example, just to give an example, in the recent, as you all know, Russia is not the flavor of the month anymore, and everybody is escaping because of the geopolitical situation. So we helped them to escape. I mean, we helped people people actually to go out of the country to keep the businesses going forward. Thanks for COVID, we've been able to manage the remote control in companies, and now managing companies remotely is no longer a difficulty. So those things are corporate finance, corporate governance, sometimes HR. That's the areas we normally actually spend time as an investor. If you want to grow your business in terms of capitalization, that's how we make money.
Arslan?
So I think that perspective, that question would be a bit extended for the local startups and the market here is only emerging. So apart from like inflation and global economic recession, we never had actual access to capital, proper access. So one of the things that would advise to the startups is to be like more planned efficiently. The growth is going to be like tough 2 years. So now we're talking like so we have one of the like biggest problem is to get the funding. So for example, if in US startups, it's hard to fund right now to any startup, but it's twice harder here to get access to VC capital. So they have to plan their 2 years and like pay close attention to the burn multiples. So maybe do kind of layoffs or reduce the cost. This is one of the things they could do right now. And another thing, advise startups to be more open-minded and transparent with the investors, because we still have that in our culture, the mindset to be afraid of the failure. So they should be more transparent. They should talk to the investors more, so they can get like advices or suggestions. So these are the things I suggest to all startups. But as Gleb said, like there's a difference to industry and industry. So this is like major things I would definitely advise startups to do right now.
Peter? I have a really simple suggestion. Spend 75% of your time selling and looking for distribution. There is nothing like selling comes first, then finance, then everything else. So it's a really simple goal, but if you can sell, if you can find the right distribution, everything else is easy. So it's very practical and really simple advice. But it's sometimes hard because we fall in love with a product or we fall in love with a particular marketing message. But if somebody is buying your product, do more. If somebody wants to help you distribute, do more. So it's very practical again, but that's kind of what has succeeded for us, and that's what we're very excited. So finding a market is the hardest thing to do. And if you find a market, just do more. So, and then the last one is start and fail fast. So start, fail fast, find distribution, sell, then finance. So
I like that advice. I've always told my teams, every one of you is a salesman.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you're in HR or finance or accounting, everyone should sell every chance they have. Mike?
I think that's all been great input so far, and just the point of sales. I mean, the cheapest form of capital you can get is a sell to a customer. But some perspective that we're trying to provide right now is many of the founders of companies that we've backed in the last financial downturn, were 15 years old or something like that, had no really perspective what this is about, and were maybe not even born when the dot-com bubble burst, or little babies. So providing perspective about what's going on. I always think the best ideas is to think contrary to general wisdom. And when people are hiding underneath their beds, I think it's a great time to be thinking about where you can make some hay. But it's really looking at every aspect of your business and saying, how can we make our gross margins that much better? Can we trade up in different roles? Because all the businesses that we invest in are dependent on the ability to attract and retain the best people. Well, an environment like this, it's a much easier environment to get great people. So constantly looking at what kind of upgrades can we make, and really, inspire people with the fact that it's environments like this where great businesses get created. When everything's going well, it's harder to differentiate yourself. It's harder to get great people. It's hard, so this whole issue of capital, frankly, companies don't run out of capital. They run out of trust, right? And so the advice that was given about being very straightforward with the issues going on, how your investors can help, is really good advice, because nothing ever goes perfect. And particularly you got challenging times, you want to be, working as a team to fight to figure out how to win. But there's capital that's provided. If you've built that trust with your investment partners, you're going to find a way to get through the hard times and thrive when the sun comes up in the east again. And nobody knows when that's going to be. Is it 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, 2 years from now? Nobody knows. But focus on the things you can control. That's part of the advice that we try to provide.
Okay, about 9 months ago, we asked our portfolio to seriously reconsider their cash flow, or at least their runway, and have enough for the next 24 months. So now we're on the 9 months in right now, and there's about another 15 months or so to go. But we are already seeing some recovery coming back in Southeast Asia, so things are looking much better because all the economies are now roaring back. So we see that the numbers are coming back. We also asked them at that point in time that we also told them at that point in time that if they are not in a position to buy, then they are only in a position to get sold. So this is a good time, as many of our fellow panelists have pointed out, that good businesses are built, that also good businesses can be acquired.
So this next question, the first question was what your portfolio companies should do. Next is about your strategy as an investor in these difficult times. I always like to remind people that, again, in the midst of the 2008 crash, Airbnb, WeWork, and Uber were all founded. And in previous recessions, we've seen Microsoft was founded, HP was founded in the midst of a recession. So you're right, Apple is probably the most famous example of that. So I'm curious about what your strategy is in the midst of this volatility, because if you're managing a traditional fund, you can look at the price of your stocks every day and see how you're doing. But as VC investors, you don't have that. So I'm curious as to how you're approaching. Are you seeing this as an opportunity to become more aggressive and take those opportunities, or are you hiding under the bed? I'm going to start, Peter, with you, and then again, come this way again.
We're more bullish than ever that this is the right time. As both Michael said and a couple of the fellow panelists said, I think there is never enough good people to work with, both in terms of kind of customer relationships. There's never enough really talented people to hire and bring in, and there is never enough really attractive businesses to join forces with. It's always hard to differentiate. It's hard to differentiate in risk, but we're a quantitative company by nature, so we actually like characterizing risk. And even though the last few years provided large, kind of bubbling, volatile risk waves, if you will, between the pandemic that hadn't happened in 100 years, with inflation that hadn't happened for a long time, but these are all cycles. And we like finding this kind of low ebb of the cycle where we are today. We're very well capitalized with the right kind of partners, and we think it's a very, very strong opportunity to invest. And that's how we deal with it. We are just really good and really smart to differentiate risk so that we're able to absorb the right kind of relationships, the right kind of customers, and to do it at scale. So we think when everybody else is hiding under the mattress, we want to fight on and drive growth. So that's kind of our approach.
Warren Buffett said, you don't know who's swimming naked until the tide goes out. Well, the tide's gone out, and you've seen a lot of who's exposed. Actually, as much as this isn't necessarily a fun environment, and it's uncertain and has risk and all that, I actually love it, because I think this is, again, not only for the companies when you make it, but this is when investors make it. When everything's going up blindly, it's hard to differentiate yourself. This is markets where you have an opportunity to do that. And what we're trying to do is, by the way, every company that we invest in, you always love it when you invest, and then you learn more as time goes on. Now is the time that we feed our winners in a major way, because this is a time where they can make hay. And the ones that maybe we don't feel strong about, they're going to have to get more efficient the way they do business. So the bottom line is we try to reinstall or enforce really the disciplines that we've had all along. We look for what I call the 5 Ps in a business, and obviously valuations are down. So but valuations, frankly, it's if a company is successful, valuation takes care of itself. But it's these 5 Ps that we look for. First P is people, no shortage of interest in ideas. It's always execution against ideas. That's the key. Second P is product. Technology is all about disproportionate gain to the leader in a category. Third P, potential. How big can it become? Fourth P, what's the predictability? Obviously, young businesses aren't very predictable, but what's the signpost on the highway that's creating confidence that the company's on the right track? And the 5th P is purpose. and this is a new one, which I believe the great businesses of tomorrow are going to have the ambition of a for-profit and the heart of a not-for-profit. So we're looking for companies that truly have a soul to what they do. Thanks.
The question was, what our strategy was.
What is your own strategy
Yeah.
as an investor, not for your portfolio companies, but for
Yeah,
yourself?
this has been the best period for us to invest in. We have had great companies that we missed out on because their valuations were too high, now came back to us and say their valuations have been slashed by 2/3 to a third. So this has been the best period for us to invest in. But obviously on the other side of the table, when you are fundraising, then you have to be realistic. If everyone else is slashing prices, then you will be remiss not to also do the same in order for your own survivability.
Gleb, I'll give it down to you at the end.
Sure. I think every crisis is a moment of truth for the portfolio companies and for the companies who are raising capital. So basically see who is naked, who is dressed, you see who is dead and who is alive. And then that's an ideal time for the private investor basically to choose the one who is a better target for yourself and for the future. And that's why I believe every crisis is a buyer's market. Basically, the prices goes down, you will get a better valuation than you did a couple of years ago. And that means that the next 2024, 2023 going to be the best years to invest. And the funds, vintage 2022, 2023, going to be the best funds ever, given the current market.
Arslan, any thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll still continue speaking from the perspective of regional investors. So first would be to expand the network, because so far we had access to regional startups and more like much of access to international startups. So I think for investors it should be like primary focus to be able to get startups at LATAM or US at least. So second of all is to be realistic. One of the things local startups, local investors should be focused on the portfolio first right now, and probably I say be able to cut the expenses in the portfolio startups and be ready for the bridge rounds as well. So because not all of them, it's a small market here, so not all of the startups will be able to survive, but you have, as an investor, be able to provide that, provide the opportunity for them to grow. So when, as I said previously, the access to capital is hard, so you should be able to compensate during these turmoil times for as an investor to the startup. So this is like more like advice I would provide as an investor, to stick to the strategy as a local investor that invests in the regional startups, but at the same time be able to get access to, as he said, valuations are going down, so there will be interesting opportunities in different markets. So differentiate your portfolio, be able to find something that would compensate you in the future if the local startups would have more hard times finding investments.
Thank you. So my next question, I'm going to open it up. If any of you have a strong opinion, then I want you to speak up. I'm not going to point the gun at each of you in a row. But I'm curious if you had advice for someone who is a smaller scale investor, an angel investor, or even just a beginning VC. Because you're obviously experienced investors, you've been in the market a long time, you're managing large funds. Is this strategy different? Right? I'm a smaller scale, I'm an angel investor, and I focus mostly on games. So it's fairly economy resistant. You know, people need to play games or feel a desire to play games, whether the economy is up or down. So for me, it's not really an issue here or there. Valuations haven't really changed all that much. But I'm kind of a narrow focus special case. In general, do you think that angel investors or beginner VCs have a different strategy or need a different mindset than you? Or are the fundamentals the same no matter what scale or what maturity you're investing in? I'll throw that one out. If anyone has an opinion, just speak up.
Well, I mean, what I'd say is, general fundamentals, what you're looking for, I don't think are any different. I do think your point about having domain expertise probably is that much more important, whether you're an institutional investor or an angel investor today, because it's a complicated world and you really want to be investing in things you really know. The one big differentiation is just, depends how deep your pockets are as an angel. But if these companies need further financing and whatever, you have to understand who's around the table to support the companies. And sometimes it's just a syndicate of angels and things are rough and you've kind of written your third check or whatever it is. But that could be challenging and unfair both for the company and for you. So that's the one thing I would say is a little bit of a twist in terms of the differentiation.
Yeah, that's a good perspective.
Obviously, angels has a lot more appetite to risk. So you guys are, compared to me, you are the best. So basically, you take way more risk than myself. And if you're thinking how to earn money, I'm thinking how not to lose money. And that's my thinking, actually. That's what differs. That's why, I manage a fund with 96 guys like you. So, and I kind of understand how they think when basically they invest into the projects like that.
So, one of the things I do as an angel is I always go to dinner with my wife because I feel like I can judge the strategy, but I need my wife to judge the founders. She's a much better judge of people than I am.
Yeah, that's true.
I have a bonus question for all of you, and then if we have time, I'll ask the audience if you have any questions. But a passion and an obsession of mine is the metaverse. An area that I'm interested in but know a little bit less about are NFTs and the crypto space. So Arslan, I'm going to start with you and then come down again, but I'm curious, do you believe in this? Is it all hype? Are you investing in this space? I'm just curious about your perspective because I find people run very hot or cold, and let's avoid trying to define what the metaverse is. I'll let you just speak about it in your own way. Both the metaverse and the sort of crypto NFT world. What are your thoughts as an investor?
Thanks for the question. So I'm far away from NFTs, so still don't see, other than art, any usability right now. But with the metaverse, it opens up a lot of perspective. I always imagine the movie Matrix when I think about metaverse. But I think it does open a lot of perspective in the future. So in terms of at least like easy things that you can apply is education. Like creating universities within the metaverse and give access to like the whole world population to get access to that knowledge. That's from one perspective. The other one is gaming, definitely. The gaming industry is booming. We've seen that acquisitions that's going on within the industry. So I think it has some, so companies that are investing right now is just testing the waters, but the ones who find the right one will succeed in the future, definitely. And I'm sure that Facebook investing heavily in Meta is not something of out of interest or just a play. They have something very specific in mind, so I think the metaverse will definitely be booming, and I will definitely have a deeper look at it.
Peter?
I think we have a tremendous metaverse and kind of Web3 opportunity. Here I'll offer a couple of predictions. Every business and everybody who has a website today is going to have Web3 presence, and it's not that far that I can see that's happening. So everybody's going to have that kind of an ability to be stateful and to be persistent in a common shared experience, which doesn't really exist today, which Web3 is going to enable. But I'll submit one other thing, which I am also very excited about. Everybody has an NFT today, except you are not making money off of it. Your NFTs is your data. So if you think about Facebook or anybody else making money on your data today about what you like and what your habits are and everything else, with Web3 technologies, you would have the opportunity to both permission it, commercialize it, and make money on it. And all the businesses who are going to be able to harness that power and harness that value are going to make money. So that's a very simple thesis, right? So it doesn't have to be art. It simply could be your data. It could be something you're interested in. It could be what's in your refrigerator. As simple as that. Take a picture of your fridge, publish what's there. Every CPG wants it because they would love to understand market share, right? So all of these things are coming. And again, 2, 3, 5 years from now, we're all going to be laughing at it saying, oh yeah, all this time ago, we know it was going to come. So anyway, that's kind of what I think.
So, to tell you what I think about the metaverse, I was going to change my name to Meta Mo. Then Mark Zuckerberg took it for the company. No, the metaverse is just the natural evolution of the billing out of the internet. And if you look at, people didn't know what the internet was for its first 20 years of existence. I think the people are predicting that the metaverse is all hype and everything else. I mean, this has been going on for some time. It's going to be huge. And it's going to be, when you look at this evolution of the internet, the metaverse, there were two big plays. It's about community and it's about digital assets. And when you look at how that's going to evolve and what that's going to enable, when you talk about education on the metaverse and how you remove friction. We've already seen games on the metaverse. I would just tell you, I think it's going to be a huge, huge, huge area of opportunity. Think about what happened in terms of internet opportunities in 1996 and 7 and 8 and 2000. But by the way, it's 5.4 billion people on the internet. The digital natives are taking over the world. The blending between your physical life and your digital life is blurring. All these applications from VR to, is all taken off. So I think it's huge.
James?
So we believe in the metaverse and so much that we created a fund just for it and put what we think are the best people onto the fund to look at opportunities in the metaverse.
Wow. Gleb, down there?
Well, I'm probably going to be again most conservative, so I don't think we're going to make money in metaverse in the next couple of years. None of us, probably. I think Zuckerberg is actually losing money there, isn't he? So, and I totally agree that this is the future, but I would like it to come a little later, to be honest. So I'm afraid. I'm afraid of this movie, which we all see. I'm afraid of the reality and losing the reality. And I'm afraid the metaverse actually can change the lot of things. And therefore, I'm more for Web 3.0 as an evolution of the internet rather than for metaverse. But on a positive side, I just bought the Oculus 3 for my kids yesterday. So that's probably the first step into it from the pretty conservative guy.
I believe in it and want it to happen more than anyone. But of course, what I found out the hard way is investing too early is even worse than investing too late.
Correct.
I invested a lot in virtual reality about 5 years ago.
Exactly.
And I lost all my money. But I'm still...
And then you sit and drinking beer with your friends and tell them, oh, I've been there like 10 years ago, but I was too early.
Yeah.
And that's probably the worst thing to come.
So if we have enough time, I'd love to open up the questions to the audience. I'm going to ask each of you, pick one person to ask your question to, and that way we can get to more questioners. Somebody, I could give you my microphone.
Thank you everyone for your session.
sorry, the question, actually, I wanted to ask Michael. Oh, by the way, yeah, you're from Silicon Valley, and I give an example with the Y Combinator, and I think that this reflects to that.
So, your observation about your observation about kind of what they call spray brain is growing in its adoption of that, and I don't know that that's necessarily we see the very best species, although I have a lot of respect for white adoption. Ultimately, it's not a healthy thing to do. The attention, the resources, really the best people. But I think there is one else that kind of shakes out maybe this environment's going to work with that. It's free flowing.
It's not really good thing.
I don't look, people, again, this is not that Ron Conway is probably the most successful angel investor ever. And it was spray and pick. There's some people that say, gosh, the brand results, so it's running exposure to a lot of things. And so it'll work out. I don't think that's necessarily great.
Well, I don't think that's bad. I think that's the life. Obviously, you don't have time to spend the value of every minute of your life is huge. You have to value every hour you're working. That's why when you target a small check and a large fund, you ultimately get hundreds of portfolio companies. You have a limit. You have 20 hours a day. You want to spend it with your life, with your kids as well. You don't want to go to having companies on your mobile in the night because they have a problem. Because everything is good, nobody calls you. Nobody calls you when they have a problem. Now letting your life is easy. Going to the private startups to your mobile, complaining how bad is the life. The service and the suicide goes next day.
So, but there is no good or bad. There's
No, but it's not that for the next stage. Because Series B, Series C, E's, etc. So when the checks are larger, when they go from smaller, you have more time to spend with your core companies. And when you become selective. You become selective because, again, you value everything against your time, your personal time.
Thank you. I feel like we're camping at a campfire. This is kind of romantic. So, in the back of the white shirt, yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much for your time here and amazing speeches. I run Private Investors Club in Central Asian offices, so I'm really into angel investing and see what they're doing. And my question is, the latest Pitch Book report from first quarter 2022 speaks that the smaller VCs up to 250 million or angel syndicates have outperformed bigger players with their portfolio companies. And you see what Gay Angels is doing, like they come third on the number of companies that they've backed since the beginning of this year. And I think this is truly an amazing democratization of venture capital globally. But my question is, do you have any insight, any of you, like why does this happen? Why do smaller players gain better results? Whoever wants to take, yeah, I was addressing Michael first.
So, venture capital historically is not a business that scales terribly well. And so, there's this risk, this tendency that you want to get more capital than you have, theoretically, greater money. But the reality is what the history has shown, it tends Yeah, so my strategy is intellectually, conceptually really interesting. I think the key is the efficiency of matching up qualified 2 years worth of students. And improve the efficacy to see how user experience
Anyone in the back? I see over there with the wall. My question is for Peter. What are the things that attract you the most when you invest in our local insurance and
That's a really important question to kind of maybe answer and questions maybe for everybody. It's really three things that attracted us to Kazakhstan. I think number one is it's a strategically placed, geographically massive country with very educated population. So we think that's a very big deal to kind of be in this massive kind of landmass that has tremendous education and romance. The second part that was very attractive is the market that is derived and human spirit here is very strong. So we think that's a very big deal. In a lot of ways, it covers a large portion. So we have relationships that comes into kind of Middle East from here, it's very easy. We have flows into kind of South Asia, that's very easy. So it's central in a way, geographic location, but also the cultural kind of orientation is very competitive. Then last but not least, the amount of digitalization, the President mentioned this earlier, but this should not be underestimated. The access to digital here has to be happening here. It's a big deal. So you're going to have the right soil, so to speak. You're going to put the next generation things. Our opportunities are, there's no really cloud business here, right? So we think there's a tremendous opportunity to drive cloud business here. Most workloads here are running on-prem. Well, that's not how it happens the rest of the world. So there's both opportunity and a right fertile ground to do things. And probably most importantly, tremendous talent here. So we're very excited. It's crazy, but if you look at some of the former Soviet Union republics, take Estonia, or even some of the countries in the rest of the world, including Argentina, the amount of IT export in those places is huge relative to the population. Here, I call it, it's young. So we have to grow it up together and really raise the boats with the tide of digital. So we're very excited about that.
There's also a theory that countries that have cold winters are good for video games because these can stay home. So the Nordics do well. Finland, on a good year, Finland is responsible for 5% of all games revenue on the App Store. Poland is a superpower now. Sweden is obviously very strong. So I think Kazakhstan is also. I think we have time for one more question. One more, and we'll let it go. Any questions? There in the back of the floor.
I have probably two questions, short questions. The first question, what's your average investment horizon? I mean, how long are you ready to wait once the project break-evens and once you exit? And second question, what's the average expected return, or IRR, or exit multiple, whatever metric you use?
Well, before that, well, expectations are very reality. It's normal that projects on average is only about 30% that's what you're targeting. Is for us. So that in terms of your holding period,
then normally target to see with the company at least 5 years. If we are able to sell earlier, that's good, because you are already have. But the reality that the average holding goes somewhere 7, 8, that's 10 years. And the reason for that, not the focus. It goes, at least in our case, it goes to the companies which are doing very good. You know, I'm just reading this out. And I prefer to stay more because they actually pay dividends and they're growing. So when you get dividends and you get capitalization.
Good. Everybody, thank you for joining this fireplace. Yes, check this out.